fear a woman that could hide a secret for 20 good years. Hmm. Oyinle had been married to Ile for 20 years, but the first 2 years of their union were the longest season of her life. Ile was a good man, quiet, strong, and known for his patience. He loved Oyinle deeply, in the way he fetched water for her at dawn or repairing the leaking roof without being asked. Yet something was missing: children. In Umuaka, a marriage without children was like a river without water, existing but incomplete. The women talk when Oyinle passed by. Their voice is low but sharp enough to pierce. She has stayed long in that house without a child. Maybe the gods has turned their back on her. She smiled too much for a barren woman. Oyinle heard it all. Every word settled inside her like stones. At night, when the village fell silent, she would lie beside Ile and stare into the darkness. She would imagine a baby's cry, a small fingers gripping hers, laughter filling their home, but the silence remained, thick, suffocating. One evening, Oyinle made a decision that would alter the course of her life forever. Beyond the village flowed the river Wine, a body of water feared. It was said that the river was alive, not just with fish and currents, but with spirits. The elders spoke of a goddess who dwelt beneath its surface, a being ancient and powerful, who granted desire, but never without cause. Oyinle had heard the story since she was a child. She had laughed at them once, but desperation changed belief. Under the cover of the night, with only the moon as her witness, Oyinle walked towards the river. Her wrapper brushed against her legs, her heart pounding with each step. As she approached, the sound of the flowing water filled her ears like a whisper calling her name. She stood at the edge. For a moment she hesitated, then she knelt down. "Great Mother of Waters," she began, her voice trembling, "I call before you with an empty womb and a heavy heart." The river stirred, not violently, but enough to make her breath cut. "I have waited, I have prayed, I have endured shame," she continued. Tears slipped down her cheeks. "Give me a child, just one, only one, and I will honor you all my life." The water grew still again. Then slowly it began to glow. Faint shimmer spread across its surface. Oyinle fell flat on the ground, trembling. "You seek what is not freely given," the goddess said, her voice like flowing water, soft yet powerful. "I am ready to pay any price," Oyinle whispered. The goddess tilted her head. "Any price?" "Yes." There was a long silence for a moment. Then the goddess spoke again. "You will have a child, a daughter, but she will never be fully yours." Oyinle heart skipped. "You must never tell anyone of her origin. Not your husband, not your family, not even the child herself." Oyinle swallowed hard. "And if I do?" The goddess' eyes darkened. "Then the river will take back what it has given." A chill ran through Oyinle's spine. Still she nodded. "I accept." The goddess smiled, a slow knowing smile. "Then go! And remember, promises made to the water are never forgotten." The river returned to its stillness, and Oyinle rose, her fear stilled. Months passed, and Oyinle's womb began to swell. The village rejoiced. Women who once whispered now smiled at her. They brought gifts, harps, and songs. Ile's joy was immeasurable. He walked with pride, his chest lifted, his laughter returning like long-lost rain. On the day Oyinle went into labor, the midwife arrived quickly, her experienced hand steady and sure. Hours passed, hours passed. Then finally the child was born, a girl, beautiful beyond words, but something was wrong. She did not cry. The midwife frowned when she noticed it. She rubbed the baby's back again and again. Nothing. She tapped her gently, still nothing. A strange silence filled the room. Oyinle's heart pounded, but she said nothing because she understood. This was no ordinary child. Outside, Ile waited anxiously. When he heard the news, he shouted with joy, and immediately he slaughtered the fattest goat in his heart, a sign of celebration so grand that the entire villagers gathered to feast. They named her Adannaya, her father's daughter. And though the villagers celebrated, a quiet unease lingered in the heart of the midwife, because in all her years of experience, she had never seen a child who entered the world without a single cry. Adannaya grew quickly, too quickly. By the time she was 3, she spoke in complete sentences. By 5, she carried herself with a strange calmness that unsettled those around her. She rarely smiled, she rarely played. Other children would run, laugh, chase each other through the dusty paths, but Adannaya would sit by herself watching, observing, as if she was studying them. Sometimes she would walk to the stream alone. No one told her to. No one accompanied her. Yet she always found her way there and back. The villagers began to notice that the child is different from others. She doesn't behave like others. I have seen her staring into the water for hours, one said. Oyinne heard it all, and her fear grew. At night, she would watch her daughter sleep, searching her face for something human, something familiar, but sometimes under the dim glow of the oil lamp, she would see something else, something ancient, and it is very terrifying. And it terrifies her. 5 years after Adannaya's death, Oyinne became pregnant again. I wish she was patient enough and didn't listen to the whispers of the villagers. This time, there was no visit to the river, no secret promise. This child was purely human. When the baby arrived, she came into the world screaming loud, vibrant, full of life. The midwife smiled in relief. That is how a child should be, she said. They named her Irika. She was everything Adannaya was not. Warm, playful, full of laughter. She clung to Oyinne. She ran through the village, made friends easily, and yet she adored her older sister. Even when Adannaya remained silent, even when she said little, Irika followed her like a shadow. Adannaya turned 15, Irika 10. By now, the difference between them had become impossible to ignore. Irika laughed easily, loved deeply, and lived freely. Adannaya remained apart. Then one night, everything changed. Irika woke up to a sound, soft footsteps. She opened her eyes and saw Adannaya slipping out of the hut. Curiosity gripped her. Quietly, Irika followed, barefoot. She trailed her sister through the sleeping village, past the trees, towards the river. The air grew colder. The sound of the water became louder. Adannaya did not look back. She walked straight into the darkness and then she stepped into the river, Irika covering her mouth in shock. But instead of sinking, Adannaya stood on the water, laughing. For the first time in her life, laughing. Around her, shapes emerged from the river, figures made of water. They danced, played, and called her name. She belonged there. Erika's heart pounded wildly. This was no dream, it was real. She closed her eyes many times to be sure if it was real. Terrified, she turned and ran home very fast. Erika burst into the hut, shaking. Mother, mother, father, father, she cried. Oyinne woke immediately, her heart already sensing danger. What is it? I saw her, Erika said. And then Naya, she was in the river, walking on water, laughing with spirits. The room fell silent. Ile froze. What nonsense is this? Her father said. But Oyinne knew the truth. Her secret buried for 15 years had surfaced. Her hands trembling, tears filled her eyes, and slowly she spoke. And then Naya is not entirely human. The truth spilled out like a broken dam. The promise. The goddess, the warning. When she finished, silence filled the hut, unforgiving. By morning, the entire village knew, and the whisper returned, louder, sharper, filled with fear. That child is from the water. Tay! No wonder she never cried, she never smiled, never played. I have seen her walking alone. The villagers gathered. Fear turned to anger, and anger was far more dangerous. At the village square, once a place of laughter and trade, became a gathering ground of unease. Elders sat on wooden stools under the great ancient tree, their faces lined with concern. One elder said gravely, "First, a child that does not cry, then a girl who walks with spirits." Another spat on the ground. "Triakwa! She is not one of us." Ile stood among them, his face hardened. For 15 years, he had raised Naya as his own, carried her, watched her grow, fed her, and now he was being told she was never truly his. He turned to Oyinle, who stood a few steps behind him, his face pale and drained of life. "Is it true?" he asked quietly. Oyinle did not speak immediately. Her silence was answer enough. Ile's chest rose and fell slowly, like a man trying to contain a storm within himself. "You went to the river," he said, his voice low. "You made a promise, and you hid it from me." Tears streamed down Oyinle's face. "I wanted a child. I wanted our child. I did not think." "You did not think," Ile snapped, his voice breaking for the first time. "You brought something into my house, into my life, without telling me what it truly was." The crowd murmured. Fear had found its voice, and now it demanded action. When the village gathered, Naya sat by the river as always, calm, unbothered. She dipped her fingers into the water, and ripples spread outward. "You are troubled," a voice whispered. She did not turn, she knew the voice. "Erika, my sister, saw me." And Naya replied. The water shifted, and a figure, a man, the goddess. "She was not meant to," the goddess said. "It does not matter anymore," Naya replied. They know. There was no fear in her voice. "You have lived among them long enough," the goddess said, stepping closer. "You have seen their world." Naya looked toward the distant village. "I do not belong there," she said. The goddess smiled faintly. "And yet part of you does." For a moment, something flickered in Naya's eyes. "Erika," she said softly. "Yes," the goddess replied. "The one who loves you without understanding you." Naya's face softened, oh, but only for a moment. Naya's face softened, but only for a moment. "They fear me now." "They always did," the goddess said gently. "They simply did not have a name for that fear." Silence settled between them. Then the goddess spoke again. "The promise has been broken." Naya's eyes closed. She had always known this day would come. Back in the village, Erika sat alone in the corner of the hut, her small body trembling. She had not meant to cause this. She had only been afraid, but now everything was changing. Her sister, her quiet, distant, strange sister, was something else entirely. And yet, Erika remembered the small things. The times Naya would sit beside her when she was sick. The way she silently handed her water when she cried. The rare fleeting softness in her eyes. "She is still my sister," Erika whispered to herself. But outside, the voices grew louder. "She must be taken back to the river. She is a danger to us all. What if she brings misfortune? What if she's here to destroy us?" Erika covered her ears. "No," she whispered. "You don't know her." But fear does not listen, and crowds do not reason. By midday, the elders had reached a decision. Naya will be brought before them, and her fate decided. Ile walked back to his hut with heavy steps. Every footfall felt like a betrayal. to his wife, to his daughter, to himself. When he entered, Oyinle looked up, her eyes red and swollen. What have they said? She asked. Ile did not answer immediately. They want her brought before them, he finally said. Oyinle shook her head desperately. No, no, they will not understand. They already do not understand. Ire spoke. Then his voice softened, breaking under the weight of it all. And neither do I. Then Irika spoke. I will bring her, she said. Both parents turned to her in shock. You cannot, Oyinle said quickly. I can, Irika replied, her voice trembling but firm. She will listen to me. Irika walked alone to the river, each step filled with fear but also determination. When she arrived, she saw Adanaya standing at the water edge, waiting. You came, Adanaya said without turning. They want to see you. I know. Irika hesitated, then stepped closer. Are you going to hurt them? She asked softly. For the first time, Adanaya turned to look at her face fully. No, I won't. Erika's shoulder relaxed slightly. They are afraid of you, she said, and Adanaya lifted her head. Are you also afraid? Said nothing for a moment, then shook her head slowly. I was, but I am not anymore. Something shifted in Adanaya's expression, something fragile. I don't understand you, Irika continued, but you are still my sister. For the first time in 15 years, Adanaya smiled. It was small, barely there, but it was real. When Adanaya walked into the village, silence followed her like a shadow. People stepped back, eyes wide open. Mothers pulled their children away. The girl who had once been ignored was now the center of everything. She walked calmly to the square, Irika beside her. The elders watched her carefully. She does not look dangerous, one whispered. Danger does not always show itself, another replied. The elders among them stood. Adanaya, he said, his voice steady. We have heard what you are. Adanaya said nothing. You are not of this world, he continued, and yet you have lived among us. Still quiet. Tell us, why are you here? The entire village held its breath. Adanaya's eyes swept across the crowd. She saw fear, anger, confusion, but she also saw something, pain. I did not choose to come here, she said finally. Her voice was calm, but carried across the square. I was brought here. Then why stay? Someone shouted. Adanaya looked. Her eyes flickered just briefly to Irika. Because I was not alone. The words shot deeper than anyone expected. Even Ile lowered his face. Suddenly the wind shifted. Dark clouds gathered overhead, moving unnaturally fast. The villagers became afraid. The river, someone shouted. From the direction of the river, a voice rose. You have broken the promise. Oyinle collapsed to her knees. The goddess had come. And this time, she had come in peace. And in that moment, Oyinle knew there was no escape. You have broken the promise. The goddess' voice echoed across the land. Not loud, but powerful. Enough to press into every heart. Oyinle crawled forward, her body trembling violently. Great mother, please, listen to me. You spoke when silence was required, the goddess said, her tone neither angry nor calm, but absolute. You revealed what was not meant for human tongues. Tears streamed down Oyinle's face. I was afraid. My daughter, she saw I had no choice. There is always a choice. The word struck like a blade. Behind Oyinle, Ile stood frozen, his mind shattered by everything he was witnessing. The world he knew, the world of logic, of soil and sweat, was unraveling before him. Then take me, Oyinle cried suddenly, lifting her head. Take my life instead, but leave my daughter. The child was never fully yours, the goddess said. She belongs to the waters. Oyinle stepped forward. No! Every eye turned to her. Adanaya stood tall, her expression calm, but something deeper moved under it now, something alive. I am not an object to be claimed, she said. not by them and not by you. Oyinle shook her head frantically. Adanaya, don't! But Adanaya did not stop. You gave me life, she continued, looking at the goddess. But I leave it here. I walk their soil. I breathe their air. I learn their pain. Her eyes flickered towards Erika. I felt something here that does not exist under your waters. The goddess watched her carefully. Feelings does not change truth, she said. No, Adanaya replied, but it changed choice. You stand between two worlds, the goddess said, and that is not permitted. Then let me choose, Adanaya replied. The goddess' eyes narrowed slightly. You believe choice free you from consequences. No, Adanaya said, I believe it defines who I am. For the first time, the goddess seemed uncertain. You cannot remain divided, she said after a moment. If you stay, the balance breaks. If you return, the promise is fulfilled. Erika stepped forward suddenly, her small voice shaking but determined. Then, let her stay with us, she cried. She has done nothing wrong. Silence charged. An elder snapped. But the goddess raised a hand, and the elder fell quiet instantly. Eureka continued, tears spilling freely. She is my sister. She may be different, but she is not evil. And then Naya looked at her, and something inside her shifted fully. For years, she has existed like still water, untouched, unmoved. But now emotion surged through her like a storm. Pain, love, and something new, fear, not for herself but for them. If I stay, Adanaya said slowly, they will never accept me. The villagers lowered their eyes because it was true. I lose everything, and if I go, she continued, I lose everything I have come to understand. She turned to Oyinme, her mother, on Ile, on Irika, the only family she had ever known. I cannot be both, she whispered. No, the goddess said gently, you cannot. Even the wind seems to wait. Adonaya closed her eyes. And for the first time in her life, she felt the full weight of being human. To choose, to lose, to love, knowing it would hurt. When she opened her eyes again, they were different. Not distant, not empty, but filled with something deep and fragile. I will return to the river, she said. Oyinme screamed. No! No! Erika ran forward, grabbing her hand. Please don't go. We can fix this. We can. Adanaya knelt and held her gently. There are things love cannot fix, she said softly. Then I will come with you. A faint smile touched Oyinme's lips. No, she whispered. You belong here. Fully. You are human. Tears streamed down both their faces. I don't want to forget you, Erika said. Adanaya's expression flickered. You won't, she said, but it will hurt less with time. She stood and turned to Oyinle. Then Oyinle collapsed at her feet, clutching her legs. I brought you into a world that could never hold you. I broke my promise, I failed you. Adanaya gently lifted her. You gave me something the river never could, she said. Oyinle looked up, her vision blurred with heavy tears. Alive, Adanaya finished. That was all. And it was everything. Without another word, Adanaya turned and walked into the river. Erika cried out, but Ile held her tightly, his own tears falling silently. Oyinle could not move. She watched as her daughter, her impossible, beautiful daughter, walked away, step by step until she reached the water. The goddess stood waiting. Adanaya did not hesitate. She stepped forward. The water rose to meet her, wrapped around her, welcomed her, and then she was gone. Finally gone. The river fell still. The sky cleared. And just like that, it was over. Thank you very much for watching Text by Grandma. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe for more interesting stories.